King of Love, we moving on up. I have a message from the King of Love, lessons, degrees, melodies sent from above. The King of Love is sent to teach. Words of wisdom are within your reach. Knowledge is a deep understanding of the wisdom of self without being demanding. The words he speaks, the melody he sings, let you know in the door he is truly a king. Disregard the appearance, seek to reach within, and embrace the King of Love without fear of sin. His life is dramatic, his path full of gold. The King of Love will never grow old. The words make you smile, the touch makes you blush. The seriousness of it all sends your mind in a rush. Sisters, brothers, all families, you don't hear him calling? You must be deaf, because we seem to be falling from the highest heights where we were meant to be. His music soothes and his words relieves. Listen close, pay attention. Let him take you to another dimension. When you feel the touch, please don't rush. Relax, open your mind and learn to trust. Look within to see who you truly are, and let the King of Love be your guiding star. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to JAS Presents Stolen Legacy, the generational ramifications of a felony conviction. Today's special guest is my friend, childhood friend, Mr. David Bates. Welcome, David, to the stage.
What's up?
We finna have a real good conversation, bro.
How you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
9-5. Go ahead.
When you say that, when you say that, what do you mean when you say 9-5?
That's just a signature of pride, education, consciousness, street conscious, book smart, just well rounded.
Where we came from, 95th
Exactly.
Street. That's it. So just a brief introduction. David Bates and I are childhood friends. We grew up together. I've known David for mostly all of my life. We moved on 95th Street back in probably the early 70s, like the early 70s, 71, 72. So I've known David since childhood, since about second grade. I think we had an issue in second grade that I had to make you pay as an adult when you tried to put something and hurt my mouth. You knew I was going to bring that up, right?
No comment, and I plead.
But going forward.
But wait a minute, David, go back there quickly. What I do
go ahead.
What I do remember is two children had strife, and the good thing about it is both parents came together. Your mom and my mom, they sat down and they came up with some form of. I had to apologize.
Yes, you did.
They had.
What did you do to me, David, that time?
I don't remember. I don't recall.
You don't recall? Well, let me tell everybody. So since we want to get started, he took a hanger and tried to throw the hanger, and it hit the side of my mouth, made my mouth bleed. But I did make you pay for it when we got older, didn't?
Restorative justice, yeah.
And that's what we're talking about today. Exactly. What is justice that's restored? So just a brief history about David. David is an exoneree. David spent 11 and a half years. Am I correct, Dave?
Correct.
11 and a half years in the penal institution, in the prison system, unjustly. David was part of a group, and most people who are from Chicago know and understand. There was a commander by the Chicago Police Department whose name was John Burge. It was worldwide that he was found to have caused people to make confessions of crimes that they did not commit, and then they were put in jail for long periods of time. And they found out that because they called them the torture victims, but David is a torture survivor of John Burge, Commander John Burge. And we'll get into all how that happened when we get into start. I just want to give you guys a brief overview of why this conversation is taking place, because we want people to have a lot of takeaways from his experience in the prison system as well as his accomplishments afterwards. So we want to make sure that the takeaway is not just all the negative connotations that goes with a person becoming a victim, but we also want to know and teach people to how to become a survivor. And like David said, we from 9-5, we survive, right, Dave?
That's right.
Yeah, so we want to use this forum as a opportunity to story tell. David's going to share with us our story. We're going to interact and have a conversation, and we're going to tell people what's happening in this world today as it relates to incarceration and how it affects generational wealth for the people and how it affects our culture more so than any other culture when it comes to generational wealth. So, without further ado, David, I want you to give the people a little insight about who you are as a person, and just briefly go over how we got to this conversation. And you can share. You're free to and open to say exactly what it is that you want to say.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be a guest, allowing me to speak to the people. I would like to. Yes, I was a torture victim. Went through a process of going through the police station and being suffocated and beaten. A lot of things happened, and it happened to hundreds of people. But all white detectives from Area 2, 111th Street. They got their origin from Burnside, 91st Street. This group of detectives came to the community, the south side of Chicago, and they started on Burnside. And I'll try to be quick. John Burge and a couple of his friends grew up on the southeast side of Chicago, right around Bogan, Judy.
Mm-hmm.
And back
Where's
then,
Bogan at?
Oh, southeast.
Okay.
Southeast. And so you might as well, I do believe it's Burnside, and we're talking about 95th and Cottage Grove, 92nd and Cottage Grove.
Okay.
And so when you talk about John Burge, and I think Dignam and Peter Byrne were three individuals who came from the south side of Chicago. And during the 60s or early 50s, it was a great migration, white flight from the southeast side and other places in the inner cities. And John Burge and his family and a couple of his friends were unfortunate enough not able to get out the hood. So a lot of people don't understand. They came from the southeast side of Chicago, and they had animosity from blacks from day one because they were forced to stay in that community because they was impoverished. And who knows what happened to them. We're not going to get into that. But the fact of the matter is these individuals came from the southeast side of Chicago. When they got of age, they all went to the military. They all got military training that they brought back home to the south side of Chicago. And they were military police. They were trained in the art of torture. They were trained as professional torturers. This is what they did for the military.
Right.
And when they returned home from the military, John Burge was hired as a police. He moved up to the ranks, and when he got in a position of authority, he called his friends, his comrades that was in the military to join him on 91st and Cottage Grove, which is Burnside. And then they went to 111th Street. So you have two situations. Again, I'm going to try to be quick.
No, take your time.
You have what I call two sets of, or two time periods. A time period which I would say from 1981, I say to 1994. Then you have a period in between, like I say, between late 70s, mid 70s to the 80s. This period between the 70s, like 74, 75 to the 80s, There were countless cases of torture, countless men coming up missing and going through police brutality related to John Burge and his henchmen. But because it was not, it didn't gather the media attention, it went by. It went by, and it continued for years until they developed a perfect system of torture.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And we're going to, again, when you talk about this thing about torture, let me give you a couple of people you might know. I can recall back in what? 83. And I can recall listening to Ulysses Floyd, you know him as US. Tell me about a story about being arrested by John Burge and taken to the Burge.
Floyd was arrested by John?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Floyd used to call him Red. But anyway, let's get to another story. Back to the story. He tells a story about him being arrested and going to 91st and Cottage Grove or Burnside district. And this was during the winter time. He talked about John Burge pouring water on him, beating him, burning him on a radiator. He talked in detail. And this is before before I met John Burge who got involved in that case. So that story stayed with me. And it took a couple years to understand this. He was preparing me, or he was giving me an understanding historically what happened and what was going on with these police.
So Floyd, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So just so I'm clear, Floyd spoke to you because we came from the same space. He spoke to you about John Burge even before you had your encounter with him?
No, not just me. Because we come up being developed, grown and developed. We grew up being taught and trained and prepared, whether we were on the street or at home. It all was connected and interrelated.
Right.
And so we should sit down in the second.
What's the
Ferris wheel?
On the Ferris wheel, on the merry-go-round.
And we would sit up nights. And the cats who listen to this, who was there, they gonna just laugh. They're gonna cry. We would sit up hours upon hours, and he would tell us stories about police torture. He would tell us stories about prison. He would tell us stories about life.
Mm.
And those stories, I tell you, it carried me throughout. Mm-hmm. It helped me with the police torture. It helped me with my incarceration. It helped me with so many things. So again, God always sent angels to you. And I don't have a religious bone in my body. Mm. But I was properly prepared to deal with the circumstances associated with my incarceration. Mm-hmm. And I give much honor to Ulysses Floyd for that.
Mm-hmm. I got to get Floyd on here. So let's go into that then, David. Tell the people what happened with your case. Why did you spend 11 and a half years in a prison system that they founded you as an exoneree? And then explain to the people what an exoneree is. Okay. So that they understand exactly what we're talking about here. And then we can go into how it affected you generationally.
Okay, great question. So we'll start about the arrest. Actually, of course, being a torture victim. I told you earlier, being suffocated, being beaten, calling all type of names. Was beaten for 2 days consecutively, 18 years of age. Having a plastic bag placed over my head, passing out from the plastic bag, not just once, twice. It was very traumatic. Going back at a time when I was 18 years of age and had limited interaction with police, limited interaction with white people. And this was a mind-boggling experience. To be
I want to stop you there, because when you say, and I can remember when we lived in the same environment, and at that time when you said you had limited access to people of other cultures, I can too remember that when I was out there and we was out in the street, we didn't have any kind of interaction. The most things that we did at the time was probably get on the bus and take the super transfers down to the Evergreen Plaza where we saw people of diverse colors. And
Mm-hmm.
so we didn't really have an experience with racism or anything like that growing up. We weren't afforded that experience at the time because we were locked in that project.
Man, that's a great point. You know, and going back again, you know, my parents, my father, my father used to uh, put us on the CTA. I remember my dad put us on the CTA and took us downtown to the CTA and signed us up for music classes. He signed up for the music classes. I think it was State and Lake or something like that. But the bottom line, Judy, he took us down there one time, and when he brought us home, he said, "Y'all going down there the next time by
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Y'all know the route," and we had to do it. The
Mm-hmm.
difference today, and we talking about 8, 9 years of age. The difference today, the difference between today and when we was coming up, Judy,
Mm-hmm.
is when me and my sister got on that CTA train. They were African American conductors,
Mm-hmm.
officiating, sitting there with the people,
Mm-hmm.
monitoring the people, and making sure the people were safe, and
Mm-hmm.
it was orderly, it was safe,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we got a chance to go downtown and interact with all cultures. But what
Mm-hmm.
you said, we didn't have any instances faced with racism,
Mm-hmm. Let me stop
discrimination.
you there, David. Let me stop you there because this is what's coming to my mind. At that time, when you telling your story as to how you got to the place where you were incarcerated, I want to pull this out with you. That's a little bit even different from me because me growing up in the projects,
Mm-hmm.
your family didn't live in no project.
So did.
Y'all lived in a house. So y'all were considered the first people in my sight. Actually, your mom and your dad influenced me that and taught me by me remembering that your mother and father owned their own business. They was in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people that was around us at that time, we had no kind of person in the projects that had their own businesses. So my only influence and the only thing I saw was the Bates family
Mm-hmm.
was an influence to us. And so y'all lived in the house, we lived in the project. Y'all thought y'all was better than us. You
No,
see?
no.
Yeah, you did. No, you no, you didn't because I came down to y'all house. Your mother was
Mm.
very pleasant. Your father was pleasant. They never treated us like we were any different because we grew up in the project, but they were a real influence over my life as it
Mm.
relates to somebody in my culture that owned their own business. As a matter of fact, they were the only ones
Mm-hmm.
in the community that lived in the home that influenced me to be an entrepreneur, to learn how to, do things for myself and not work for anybody. Because I remember your parents was the ones had that restaurant down on Roosevelt Road downtown. That was considered
Yes.
bougie at the time. But going back to what happened the night of your arrest, let's go back to that. And it was not just you that experienced that, but you had other people that
Yeah.
experienced that. I know personally,
Yeah.
Gregory Banks was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
There were other people that suffered in the hands of Commander Burge with this situation. So tell us, what was that like for you the night that they came and got you? How old were you, David?
Well, I had just turned 18. I think it was 1 month into my 18th year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was literally at home. I think it was 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Called my mom. Some police knocked on the door. Detectives and police knocked on the door. She opened the door with 357 in her face. We're looking for your son. You know, what could she say? He's downstairs, he's asleep. And
Mm-hmm.
they,
They
they
put a
came.
gun to your mother's face?
Yes, it's a matter of, it's a part of the records.
Okay, go ahead.
So, let me get back to, so, they was escorting me out, handcuffed me, and my mom getting her clothes on, she going. They said, well, listen, ma'am, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of him, and he'll be back a little later. The exact words. I heard it. I'm right here. It's very important. And my mom, I'm looking, was brief look. She was startled, but respecting authority and not understanding what the hell was going on. She said, okay. And of course, I didn't come home for 11 and a half years later.
Wow.
And, you know, I can just imagine what she went through watching her son being handcuffed and taken out the home. And I'm sure she second guessed herself. Well, I should have did something else. I should have did something, you know.
And what year was that, David?
That was in October 1983.
And when did you come home?
I came home in 1994.
Okay. And do you remember what led up to the exoneration? Can you, if it's not too painful, can you explain what it was like being in a jail cell, knowing that you're innocent? Let the people hear what that did to you.
So first of all, let's go street. Let's go cold. You cannot go into a county jail. You cannot go into Stateville, Menard, into those different places talking about that you were tortured and forced to sign a confession. It's not. And you begin to tell people, well, I was suffocated. I passed out a couple of times. They beat me. They tortured me. I could show them scars or whatever, but the story is not believable. It's not believable. We don't believe you. The same as the courts. They didn't believe me. So there was nothing, no one I could talk to, no one for 11 and a half years. And as people call me, text me today when they found out the podcast was on, they was like, man, I didn't know you was a torture victim. Because we had that code of silence and code of conduct.
Within the joint, right?
Right. So listen, for 11 and a half years, I could not tell nobody that I was forced to sign a confession. Could not tell nobody that I was tortured. I could not tell anybody about my case.
So technically, I'm sorry, David, for constantly, but as things come to me, I want to make sure that the people understand what you've been through and what it did to you. So technically in 83, because we came out together, you went in as technically a young man, a young boy. And here, 1994, 95, you come out as a young man, as an older man.
29.
A lot of things have changed.
29 years of age.
Say that again.
29 years of age. I went in when they had brick cell phones.
Yep.
Beepers. And the pay phones. That's how we conducted. I mean, that's how business was operated through those.
So tell me what type of emotion, David, because that's one of the things I want to discuss with you. What type of emotional impact did that do to you as a person? Because the David that I know that went in, you were a compassionate brother. We did our thing. That's what we did. However, you wasn't a mean spirit. You've never been a mean-spirited person. So being in there 11 and a half years, knowing that you were innocent, what did that do to you as a man?
It made me develop some inner character.
What do you mean by that?
If you can't speak, you can't share your story, you can't tell your story, that's a trauma. You spoke about it being traumatic, correct?
Correct.
So you had to come up with develop certain mechanisms to heal myself. And that was learning about my history, that was studying, that was being conscious, that was continue to grow and develop as if I had to complete this whole sentence. I could not concentrate on being innocent or being a torture victim, or I could not concentrate on the courts rectifying the situation. I had a bit to do. I had time to do.
And you didn't know how much time, right?
What year? No, I was convicted in September the 15th, September the 25th, September the 9th, 1985.
How much time did they
And
give you?
September the 25th of 1985, my brother's birthday, I received a 20-year sentence.
Okay. Okay. So you got 20 years. Of the 20 years that they gave you, they took half of the years away when they exonerated you. What is exoneration so that the people know?
So let's go back to my story a little bit because
Okay.
we chopping it up. So I'm gonna go back, and I'm sorry for changing this up. We're gonna go back to the actual encounter with the detectives at Area 2, 111th Street for those 2 days.
Okay.
Again, what the audience needs to understand is that we have hundreds of African American men who had to go through the ordeal of having shotguns put in their mouth, burnt by radiators, electroshock, cattle prods placed on their testicles, beaten. Individuals like my co-defendant Gregory Banks was literally taken out the police station and taken to Doty Road. You know what Doty Road is. How many people did they take to Doty Road? And how many people did not come back from Doty Road?
That's right.
We have to really be honest. I didn't want to just sugarcoat what happened. I want to tell you about what black men went through on 111th Street, 91st Street. And the audience will tell you, yeah, these things happened to us as well. So the ordeal of going into a police station, all white detectives coming into the room, putting handcuffs on you, cuffing you to the back of a wall, and having their way with you. Imagine being beat. Imagine again having a plastic bag placed on your head. Imagine while the plastic bag being placed on your head as you hollering out, they punch you in the stomach. Because again, they was trained in the art of torture. This shit wasn't new to them. They were trained, as I said, from the military.
Right.
Again, I don't harper too much on my story because I'm a survivor.
That's
what
right.
They did to me, they made me strong. They made me better. They made me to a person that can't be stopped, can't be touched. I have dealt and been through the worst of the worst, and I survived them and overcame them. So whatever society had for me when I came home, and I'm moving on to coming home, I was properly prepared to deal with it.
That's right.
Again, let me go a little further because I want to get due to people who played a part of my growth and development. And the first person I had to give credit to was Larry Hoover. I watched Larry Hoover in Stateville Correctional Center. I watched him train and develop men that were considered untrainable.
People don't see that.
I watched him command the respect of killers, cutthroats, criminals, thieves, good-hearted men, wherever. And I'm gonna tell you something else, and I'm just gonna give him this due right now, because there's two people in this country that was able to bring black and brown men together. And I'm gonna tell you them too.
I know who they are. Go ahead.
It was Harold Washington and Larry Hoover. Larry Hoover made it possible for black men to go to Pilsen, to go over to come on.
You getting old?
Yeah, Humble Park.
Yeah.
We were able to go on the north side, east side, west side, south side. It was unity. We were able to travel to all over. Now, guess what? Do you know for a 10 or 15 year period in prison, that was the same positivity that was going through prisons? Did you know for a 10 or 15 year period, there were no fights amongst black and brown men because of color? Maybe because of the color of your handkerchief.
That's a whole situation.
We were black and brown men who came together, and those are the first times in history that black and brown men was organized to come into some political consciousness. And so when people want to know why Mr. Hoover, Larry Hoover, is still locked up, you understand that.
That portion.
Yeah. And so again, let me go back in. When
Because
I
it was, so what you're saying is that he allowed black and brown men to have a collective consciousness where they understood one another and they respected one another, unlike what's happening today, right?
he built power and coalitions,
By
respecting
cohesiveness.
respecting all men, not trying to take them or demean. As a matter of fact, another thing, I came through a time of incarceration, 18, 19 years of age. If it was a decade or more before then, it was a strong possibility that I could have been gang raped.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I was a punk or not because I ain't had no
Tell
credit.
it, David.
It's because of the mentality in the penitentiaries where you had some of the most cutthroat Negroes. And I ain't talking about just black. I'm talking about some of the downtrodden. They would come together and 5 or 6 guys jump on one person and rape them, take their manhood. And
That's amazing.
those stories were unheralded. But I come into a time when Larry Hoover eradicated the raping of men, not just for his group, but I'm talking about the entire penal institutions in the state of Illinois. So, and you ask anybody, I'm not saying something
that you didn't know.
We have to give him the due because he set a standard and
That's
set
right.
a place where I can come in and
respect.
Well, no, he set a table for me where I came in the belly of the beast and I didn't get touched, I didn't get burnt, I didn't get consumed. He didn't want a knife in my hand. He didn't want me using anything physical. He mandated for all young black men who was associated for him to get education.
Education back then, y'all.
And again, that's a whole new segment because I could bring good 25, 30 guys my age.
My brother got his degree in there.
Rabbit went. This is what I'm trying to tell
brothers.
you. We got Jed Maurice, the brother who was wrongfully convicted. He went on to get a degree. Now he's an attorney.
Yeah.
We have so many great men who've been trained and developed by Larry Hoover.
That's what I wanted. Let's stop right there, David, because I wanted to give some to add some life to this whole conversation, some numbers, so that people understand the ramifications of generational wealth starts with the numbers of people that were incarcerated. And they were 65 million adults have a criminal record. That's 1 in every 4 adults that have a criminal record. Of that, 2.2 million men and women are incarcerated.
All right, can I interrupt you on that right there? Good point. Now, let's get into that, and then I'm going to give you back the floor. If we're talking about, you said 2.2 million.
2.2 million, 2.2 million.
We're just going to deal with that figure. We know the African Americans make up 13% of the general population in the United States. Probably figures are going down. I say 12 to 13%. So the prison population, African Americans make up close to 60% of the prison population. Correct?
Correct.
So now I didn't do my math and homework. People gonna do it themselves. If you look at that 1.5 million and you add up the years that they're incarcerated, and then you just add up the cost. I mean, minimum wage. If you paid them or added up each day they spend incarcerated and paid them minimum wage, because that's what they would have been doing if they weren't caught up in the fucking prison industrial complex. Excuse me. If you added that up, you are, and we're not talking about 1 year. We're talking about from a 30 to 40-year period. Because in the 70s they only had 3 prisons: Stateville, Pontiac,
and Menard,
and Vandalia. And something else,
Centralia. So 5.
Today in 2022, there are 40 to 50 prisons in the state of Illinois alone.
That's it.
Think about that.
So let's stop there, David, because the importance of just saying that is so that people understand the ramifications that take place because not only does it affect the person, the adults that's in behind bars, it also affects the children. The statistics show 1 in every 28 children have a parent that's incarcerated, or in our culture, so to speak, where there's a limit of two-parent households, that means that number even doubles. Because if you have a mother who's raising their own children, now you make those children not able to be raised. They have to be raised by grandparents and stuff. So I don't want to stay on there with you, because I want to show the people, we know the common sense tells us the ramifications of our people being incarcerated. And common sense tells us the effect that it takes physically, spiritually, emotionally, and financially on the minds and the people that's affected by this surge of mass incarceration. What I want to pull out of you, David, is your experience. Your experience did make you stronger. You learned quite a bit. You went in as a young man, you came out typically as a young man. After you came out, after you were exonerated, my question to you is, tell us, when you came out here after the exoneration, which means that they were supposed to forgive your record, close and seal your record, and then David can come back and restore the 11 and a half years that he lost. Did that happen to you? Were
No,
you were you were you compensated for what occurred to you? And if you were or were not compensated, explain to the people why.
okay. So in 2017, I received a pardon based on innocence. So that came what?
And you didn't tell us, what did you go down for?
Murder, attempt murder, aggravated battery, armed robbery, a slew of charges, the whole 9 yards.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Go ahead.
Okay, finish.
You interrupt me like you used to when we were
I
children.
always interrupt you.
So you
Finish your
got to bring me
story.
back. Come on.
Okay, so let me take you back. So after you came home,
Got you. All right.
most of the people received, based on our conversation prior to this meeting, which I didn't know. I thought that when the state or the city had bought reparations to you guys for the torture that you guys received, I thought, I didn't know until you shared that with me. I thought that you were also absolved
Well, no.
financially.
Well, first of all, when the torture reparations was introduced to the city council, it was literally a ploy to help Rahm Emanuel back in office. Uh, we were called one day and we were told that we would have some, be a part of a reparations deal, but we had to go be a part of a press conference and we had to do this and that. And, back then I was working, as a community organizer, and then moved up to executive director of an organization called the Justice Coalition of Greater Chicago. And our motto was the criminal justice field would be the next battleground for the criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
Or the civil rights movement would be the next battleground. The criminal justice system will be the next battleground for the civil rights movement.
Okay.
And that's what I became a part of when I came home. I became a community organizer. I became an executive director at one point of an organization. I even got off into doing case management services. So I got workforce development. So I got a chance to see the system from the other side, literally understanding how a criminal record denies you opportunity to compete for a job. Because when they stopped the paper application and went online, and the human resource department usually are white and brown, let's just deal with it. people get a chance to look at your zip code, your area code. They can look at your name and tell what community you come from, so that you can be not selected because of that. Then they literally can look on. They can look on your resume and see the years, the different parts of years, the gaps. 2 years difference, 3 year difference.
But if you were exonerated from that, why did that affect you? I can't hear you.
Give me 1 second. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. So if you were exonerated, why did that affect you?
Okay, that's when
in employment.
Earlier, the exoneration came in 2017. My return to society was in 1994. So that meant I completed, even though I received a pardon based on innocence, I was forced to complete my entire 11 and a half sentence. And even when I got home in 1994, I continued to fight until I received a pardon based on innocence.
So look, let's go back, David. So my question to you is, if they offered you a financial reparations for the time that you spent, like they did the other people, did they offer you the same thing?
Yes, they did. But, however, the problem then was I was not in no point. Of course, I was working with Laquan McDonald case. I got videos, and I did a video in support of Laquan McDonald. There was no way I was going to sit with Rahm Emanuel on a press conference.
So let's stop. Let's stop. So at that point, when they offered you
I refused it.
So you refused it.
I wasn't. I was the only Burge torture victim, and I ain't gonna set nobody out.
Right.
I was the only victim not take that money for 2 reasons. Because the money did not include those who was incarcerated. It didn't include no concrete structure, only a small handout, a small donation, and the actual reparations. When you signed the reparations, when all the young men, the brothers signed those reparation papers, it destroyed the earning power of any of the other torture victims, because they said we paid y'all already. So if you had to settle, say for instance, like they were offering individuals, the highest an individual could get was, I think, like $150,000 to $200,000, correct?
For reparations?
Yeah. So we talk about individuals who spent 15, 20, 30 years incarcerated, was tortured, was beaten, came home, couldn't get jobs, had to have the record still dogging them down. Yet you're going to accept that small amount of money?
Oh, so that was your reason for not accepting it.
It didn't pat the smell test, and more importantly.
But let me ask you this then, David. You had an attorney, correct?
And that was the problem, because my attorneys, who actually initiated the deal with the city council, with the Chicago lawyers from the city of Chicago, he didn't tell any of the victims what he was doing. He did not consult with them.
Okay. So that's a moot point then.
Yeah.
So from this conversation, it's known now that you didn't receive any kind of reparation. So let's go back to the fact that, okay, now going forward.
So now in 2022, what I'm doing, I'm working to get reparations on my own. I don't want to go in and negotiate with the city, with an attorney. I don't want to go in with a group of people. I want to go in and get what I have coming.
Okay.
I'm an individual who spent 11 years incarcerated and went through this whole process of being wrongfully convicted. And even though you're wrongfully convicted,
so who do you think? I'm sorry. Who do you think would be the person to go to for you? Who would you need an appointment with, David? And what are you doing to get there?
Well, I'm working with the Chicago Black what is that group? The Chicago Automatic. I'm tongue
called the Automatic Black Council of Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a simple process of having them reintroduce the bill to include me in it. It's
So
not even.
it's basically legislation to overturn legislation.
It's not even legislation. It's writing me into the. It's writing me in.
To that bill, that particular
Yeah,
bill.
reintroducing the torture reparations bill to include me. It's not no
David Bates.
litigation.
Okay.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So along the bottom of the line, the ticker is saying to support David, where David is asking that you either write Lori Lightfoot or the mayor of the city of Chicago, or you can write to the Aldermanic Black Council of Chicago to ask them to include David as a
Reintroduce the bill to include
reintroduce
me.
the bill and include David Bates for that particular reparations, so he can be compensated for the 11 and a half years. So then that part, y'all support him. Do what you can do to help him to attain rightful compensation for what he's been through. And we want to share David more so, even with the compensation, share with the people, how did that affect? You have children, correct?
Yes.
How did that affect not just you? How did that affect your relationship with your children? Because
Thank you. All right. Look,
Mhm,
listen. Thank you. Excellent point. I appreciate your question. I know where you're going.
mhm,
Let me explain something to you. This is not just me. We talking
mhm,
about 1.5 million, and I know it's more. We talking
mhm,
about men and women who have came home from prison, serving time, who have a felony conviction. They can't get jobs. They can't be providers to those same children.
mhm.
So again, what we need to understand how the wealth is being taken
How?
over and over again. Because if
Because
you
of that.
cannot get a job, you can't buy Jordans. I'm just saying, if you don't,
Absolutely.
if you
Right.
don't have a job, you cannot pay for graduation fees. If
Mhm.
you don't have a job, you can't pay for the child's trip.
Or their food.
If you don't have a job, then you possibly, this is a strong possibility you're not in no shape to even go to a PTA meeting. Am I right?
That's right. That's right.
Uh-huh. So
Yep.
and then we in 2022 now,
Mhm,
you know, you might have a child in a certain school in the city of Chicago, in the Chicago public schools.
mhm.
But don't you know, with that felony conviction, you can't go into that school, let
Didn't
alone,
know that.
wait, give me a second. You can, not only can you not go into that school, you cannot participate in the school related to your child's development. And more importantly, you can't be hired within the same system that's supposed to be growing and developing your children. That
Wow.
don't seem like a good system. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're absolutely right.
So yeah, when
Because
you
it
talk
doesn't
about,
afford.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
you talking about the impact of the children. You're taking a legacy away. You mentioned, well, my parents had. When you
Mhm.
talk about Roosevelt Street, that was Trader Joe's. That was once Rosalie's.
Yes,
And
it
of course, I was
was.
incarcerated when they did that. But yeah, downtown, they took away opportunities like that, or they attempted to take away opportunities like that from me. They attempted to put me back on the street corner, Judy. They attempted to have me being involved with a non-productive life.
Hmm.
But I'll take the audience back to one day, a week after coming home, and I see Judy.
Now you finna tell a story, right?
So I can
Where
remember.
was that?
I can
Go
remember.
and tell the
I can.
story.
I can remember like it was yesterday. I came. I saw you. I had some type of cream shirt and some cream because my sister took me shopping. Crazy, she was very. She had me hip hop up back then in 1994. I had the brand new Bo Jacksons on, and when I saw you, I thought I was so hip. You was like, well, where you going to a party?
I didn't.
I said, no, I'm looking for a job. You said in that?
I did, David.
Hold on. Wait,
I remember that.
let's get it. Hold on, be cool.
Okay, go ahead.
So let me tell you about Judy. Judy looked me up and down. She said, come on. This woman here took me to Evergreen Plaza.
I remember that, David.
Be quiet.
Okay.
It took me to the oak tree and bought me a pair of green khakis, a green shirt, and a pair of brown khakis and a brown shirt.
Wow.
And you said, this is what you wear on the interview.
Thank you, David.
So, now you give me emotion. So,
oh, I love you.
And a tribute to this, what separates me from so many cats who've been downtrodden, beaten by the system. They quit. They let the system do them. I understand. What blesses me is I always had good people like you
in your life
who kept me from going back to the hood.
To that joint.
Kept me from going back to the streets. I remember going back to 95th Street. I ain't gonna even mention them names. I just, when you come home, you know, I'm standing in the suburbs and things, and I want to come back to see 95th Street. I remember going on 95th Street and Curly saw me. Curly saw me. He was like, man, what you doing up here? Oh, man, I'm just, no, man, don't, come on, man. Gave me a wad of money. Go, man, don't come up here.
Don't come back.
I can give you that story, whether it's Curly, Twin, or Vine. Come on, I'm going to give you them. Those are the guys I ain't never had to go on street corner. I couldn't tell you what the hell, whatever was going on.
That was a code, though.
That's the story.
I appreciate you sharing that, David. At first, I didn't remember that, but I've always thought of you and your family as family. It's the Bates and the Dunwoody's, Dunwoody Gibsons. We've just been family. Like I said, I admired your mother and father. They set examples. They set real examples. All your sisters, brothers are successful. They're doing what they're supposed to do, that we were taught to do. Even though your parents are gone, my father is gone, we still have those core values that we learned. I learned in the projects, you learned in the house. So
hold on. Let's stop. Let's get off this project. Let me tell you something. From a young man who
you love the projects, though. You love coming in the projects.
Yeah, give me a second.
I gotta get curling on here with them boots. You don't want me to go there.
Oh no! If you say anything about them boots, you're gonna get in trouble. Stop.
Yeah. Okay. All
right. So look. All right. Let me tell you something about Loden Home and even Princeton Park. So I'm not gonna say we was well to do. We were really okay.
We were straight.
Well to do. But there were no children like me on my block.
Nope. You had to come to the project.
I had to go 2 blocks down, and when I walked over there and I saw them crazy Negroes, they looked like family. I was like, man,
we look like family.
They family. I'm in low homes and ain't no locks on no doors.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going into houses. I don't even know the people. But wait a minute. I saw no dirt, no debris. I saw no garbage. I saw, what's the old man, Mr. Frank, cutting the grass with the man? Don't play with me. We're going to need some more time for this one. When I went in Loden Home, I saw more community in the projects than I saw on 96 and Wentworth.
You better say it.
And let's stop it when you want to talk about your parents or Carolyn Banks, Miss Banks. If you want to go down with Yvette, Miss Carter and them, you want to go to the Herfords. If you want to go to the Blaylocks, man, we had a community. But nobody denied the opportunity coming in. And
that's it. Well, we had some people that was denied the opportunity. We ain't gonna go there on live. You know what I'm saying? We'll keep that between ourselves. But it was community. It was a sense of community, and I think that's something, David, that's lacking today with our people. We don't have
Yes.
the capacity to be a community which creates generational wealth. Because, like I said, part of what God has blessed me with is because I've watched families like yours
Mhm.
show examples. Because living in a place where there's no hope, you have to see that glimmer of that sunlight. The light got to come in somewhere, and God always affords that light to come in, whether it be the Bates family or somebody. Everybody has an opportunity to do what's need to be, regardless to the
Mhm.
obstacles that we go through, regardless to you being incarcerated. You still came out with a mindset to one, show yourself approved. That's word. You
Mhm.
didn't want to stay where you were, that mindset, that closed off mindset. I've been in the joint. I'm hopeless. I'm helpless. You got up. You put your bootstraps on, and as it wasn't easy, it was a struggle. Even though they said no to a job, you still got you a job. You ended up being in community activism. You end up pouring into the community. I remember talking to you years ago. You always so hard-headed. You was working in the community, and you were trying to see, you want people in the construction trades to be of a black and brown. I remember that conversation. I
Mhm.
said, David, you can't fight the world by yourself. You understand what I'm saying? Because you were ready to beat down and fight everything that came against you. But one thing that I've learned in this journey called life is that you get more of an impact when you have a closed fist than an open hand. So it takes a collective
Yeah.
consciousness. It takes a change of your mind deciding that despite what I've been through, despite what I have to, overcome, I'm going to survive because God didn't create you to fail. And that's what
That's
you've
right.
done. And so, even like the last time I ran into you on the street, God had been good to you. Who comes home from doing 11 and a half years and be able to take care of himself? You know what I'm saying? A lot of things may not have been successful, but you take care of yourself. You were so happy, you bought you a new Lincoln. You know what I'm saying? So you're accomplishing the things that you set out to. Exactly.
Wait a
You
minute.
accomplish.
Hold on. But hold on. You have to let the audience know that I was
Okay.
driving a Lincoln when you saw me. I
I
just
saw you with the
all right.
Lincoln,
So let's don't
but
have
you got
like
the. But what I'm saying, my point is saying that even though you were denied a
yeah.
lot of things through your incarceration, and even though it affected your children the way it may have affected them emotionally, traumatically, missing you, during times of your life that you had inner struggles that you had to deal with and get out
Yes.
of after you
Yes.
came home. All those things are expected. But what we as a community need to do is embrace each other, hold each other down. Like you
There you
you
go.
mentioned,
Yeah.
when you came home, I didn't think myself higher. You my brother. We stood on the same street corner together. Let's go do this and do it the right way. And I believe that if we as a people, if we decided, just like that, don't shun your brother, don't shun your sister. The only justification for looking down on somebody is to pick them up. And you're responsible for that. And now, once we pick you up, it's up to you to get over
Man,
those internal struggles. It's
that's
up
what's
to
up.
you to fight the good fight of faith so that in the end, like you said, you don't subscribe to a whole lot of stuff, but you know that there's a power that takes you to do what you're doing today.
Yes.
You know that of yourself, David couldn't have done that himself. Today, you having a good job, a good paying job, is not of David. So I believe that
I agree.
restoration and justice begins within. I always
I
say
agree.
that if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. And that goes from the time we sat on the street corner. When we sat in the corner and we was in the middle of the center and we stood together, somebody came in our hood and they disrespected, we was on it because we were together. So that collective consciousness is what is needed for us to overcome these obstacles, whether it be prison, whether it be molestation, trauma, any type of trauma that we go through. I believe that it's that collective consciousness, and that goes back to everything begins and ends with the Father. So I believe that He created us as a collective consciousness. He created us so that we can be together. That's why he said man and woman, a collective consciousness, the two to become one, because when one fall, the other one is there to pick them up. So it doesn't just take a man an island to himself. What you went through, David, is commendable. You're strong, you're resilient, you've proven to the world that you can make it despite when people get out of the joint. They don't have to go back to the same, be like a pig or a dog returning to its vomit. There's hope. And you are a complete example of that. And you didn't come from the beginnings, even though you love to be in the projects. I don't know what was wrong with you. I wouldn't have been, if I wasn't born there, I just showed, but I don't know, you was just attracted to the project. It was like you said, it was family. It's a collective consciousness.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna say
go
this.
ahead.
So this is what I'm talking about. It take a village. Cause see, you fed and got something from my parents and from my house, and I got something from. I've been in every room in your house when you was there, when you wasn't there. Sitting up there in the back back there, and your mama hollering and screaming. But
I'm telling.
Every part of the house, and I've been through every part of the projects, almost everyone's homes, and the parents, to their credit, I'm talking about y'all, whether it's Loden Home or Princeton Park, they made y'all they made y'all come up out of poverty. They made y'all get y'all shit stuff together. And while we was doing all that dirt in the projects, man.
That was you.
Right. While we was doing all that dirt in the project, one thing about y'all, when it got too hot, y'all got the hell up out of there. And y'all went home.
Yep.
That was the entire Loden Home and Princeton Park. So, man, much love to the parents from Loden Home and Princeton Park.
Oh, my God. It was only a few that had dual parents, both two-parent households.
Wait a minute. You just hit it. Loden Home and Princeton Park, the overwhelming majority of the family, if you're talking about the projects, they had two parents.
Yep.
Two parents.
We were blessed.
Yes.
We were blessed, David. If in hindsight, as bad as we was blessed. And I was worse than my oldest brother. You know what I'm saying? If it weren't for the grace of God, man, I probably would have been sitting next to you. But God had been so good. Yeah, but okay. But I am so thankful that you came on today to give insight, encouragement, to inspire someone, to let them know that there's restoration, there is justice. Now, in the financial side of things, everything that was taken from you, David, God will bring it back to you. No doubt. There's no lack in your life. You're good. You may have struggled in a lot of areas. That too shall pass. We grow through our traumas. All of us, the whole world got traumas. But the most important thing that we want to have as a takeaway from this is a collective consciousness. How does this affect how does this affect generationally our people when it goes to incarceration, mass incarceration? And you explained it. Clearly, you explained it, how it affected you traumatically, emotionally, physically, all of that. There was times that you don't want to hear nothing about no God. I remember you used to tell me when you first come on, get your head out the clouds.
No, I used to tell you, Judy, the highest that normal people can go is cloud 9.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, is on cloud 20.
Yeah, I remember. David would talk about me so bad. I said, whatever you say, it
Woo.
works. You know, it works. And God has been good to us. He's been very, very
Mhm.
good to us. And I believe that restoration of the justice that God will put it in the hearts of the people who are responsible for giving you what you have coming to you. He can touch anybody any day of the week. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And for you sharing this, it's bringing hope to those that are incarcerated that may even view this. So, family, share this on YouTube, share this, because I believe that people will be very welcome to hear that there's hope and there's justice
Let me
and
just say this.
restoration.
Let me say this. I'm sorry for cutting you off. Okay, let me just say this to the other people, men and women who've been incarcerated or return to society. I'm
Mhm.
57 years of age,
Yeah.
right? At 57, I came home in 1994.
Hmm.
This at 57 this year is the first year that I was able to pay my rent for an entire year.
That's good,
You know,
David.
now,
That's
listen
good.
up, wait, no, I'm serious. And you know, I've always had money. I mean, I've always been okay. I've been living in the best places, Oak Park, Country Club. I never stayed in the hood.
Right.
What I'm saying is, this is the first time since I've been home, I returned to society, that
Look at
I've been
God.
stable. This is
That's
the
good.
first job. I'm talking about
Mm.
at 57.
Mm.
How many
Since
doors been turned down?
1994.
How many doors been turned down?
Mm-hmm.
How many times I've been denied, even though I have the
Mm-hmm.
skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the first year, not just paying rent. This is the first year that I was able to amass beyond a livable wage in salary.
Amen.
And I'm looking at these figures and I'm like, what crumbles me is the fact that, damn, what if I would have had this from day one? You know, I
Yeah.
had spurts of prosperity. We do what we do. But
Right.
what I'm saying is, and then it's another thing. Number one, it took all those years for me to get out the system. Even though I was exoneree, meaning I received a pardon based on innocence, even though my records were sealed,
Mm-hmm.
expunged, they still found a way to deny me jobs. That's a whole new story. What
Right.
I'm telling you to the people who give up, it took
Press.
me till I was 57
Mm-hmm.
to earn a livable wage, and it took until I was 57 to pass a background check.
Look at God. Won't he do it? He don't come when you want him, but he on time.
Yeah. So think about that and don't give up.
Don't tell him, David.
Man, you better not. You got children
Don't
to feed, your kids looking at you, your community looking at you.
tell him,
You was
David.
walking around like a monster and a beast. Now you gonna come home soft, whimpering on the corners. Get the hell out them corners and build your community up. You know what the hell's
That's
going
it.
on. That same
That's
gangster
it.
you had in the streets, the same gangster you had in the joint, it should be manifesting on the streets today. You should not
Today.
be out there asking for hangouts. You should not be on no corners. You should be
Mm-hmm.
running for alderman. You should be running for city council. You should be running for ward community. You
Teach
should
him,
be
David.
controlling your entire block,
That's
starting with
it.
the alderman on down. How you gonna be gangster but not gangster civically? How you gonna be gangster on the street but not be gangster economically? How you gonna
Come
be
on.
gangster on the street but not gangster socially?
Come on,
If you're
David.
a gangster, you're a gangster 24/24, and it needs to be
That's it.
reflected on them street corners.
Come on.
That's what's up. Because they
Spit the
don't care.
laws.
They
Spit the
don't
laws.
care. Oh,
Spit the laws.
time out.
You preacher. You know the laws. That's the law.
But on a
That's
real
the law.
though, yeah.
That's it. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. And before we go off, I wanted to just give some insight as to the justice. How was justice served? This is my last question for you.
Mhm.
How was justice served with Commander Burge with all that he had did? How did that end up?
First of all, again, we got to acknowledge the torture victims. We also have to acknowledge people like Melvin Jones and Ulysses Floyd and people that didn't get a part of John Burge's torture reparations because he's been doing it. John
That's right.
Burge did not get convicted or held accountable for none of the countless hundreds of African American men, not Hispanics, not whites, but hundreds of African American men were tortured by all white detectives.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
John Burge did not get convicted for any of those abuses, nor did any of the police and detectives who participated in that system. None of them got convicted. John Burge got convicted for lying under oath about the torture. Mr. Burge,
Wow.
did you torture? No, I didn't. Bottom line. So, out of all those hundreds of individuals, and some are still incarcerated right now based on a false confession, based on John Burge, based on all the things he did, and the same records, the same evidence they are using, it was developed by the same people who tortured him, and it's been admissible in court. What the hell? So again, the torture, there was no really true torture reparations because there was no true healing, and it didn't even reach inside the prisons to get those cats who's still sitting there right now
Yeah,
talking about they've been
behind.
tortured and beaten.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, David. It's such a high cost to pay for prison. I don't believe that there's a dollar amount that you can put to the life of an individual such as yourself that has suffered the atrocity of a unbalanced legal system. My thought and my process says that there's always that higher power that pays and has reparations for those that are afflicted. So I rely, trust, and depend that all that you have coming to you, He will provide. What man fail you, God won't. So thank you so much, David, for coming on, sharing your story, being my second guest on the story. So I pray that what you shared with us will empower, uplift, and encourage our people, and not just our people, but all people to
All right.
come together under a collective consciousness so that we can stop the recidivism rates of going back and forth to
Yes.
jail in our
Yes.
communities and
Yes.
in other communities as well. I believe that a problem is not specific. Although we may be affected more so by that problem is not specific to a culture. It's
Yes.
specific to a people, and that's a human race. And I believe that with that, if we just come together as a collective consciousness and institute that togetherness, that care, that compassion, that love, that collective consciousness with each other, that we can stop a lot of the traumas that people go through. So I'm believing that the takeaway from this, David, is a collective consciousness. Would you agree?
Mhm. Yes.
A collective consciousness. So once again, thank you so much, David, for your just putting it together for me coming on. I thought you was gonna say something crazy about something because I didn't want to mention the boots. You didn't want the
Oh, you
boot
did.
story.
You just snuck and mentioned them. This is the second time now. You better
I
cover your
wish
ground.
Curly.
All right, I
Ooh,
got
I
some
wish
stories
Curly
too.
was on.
Oh man. Okay
I
now.
wish Curly was on so that she would be able to. We would. I think the next one we got to have like a joke or
All of
something.
yeah. You asked
We got to do
Curly.
like a got to get
Right.
Floyd, all
A
of us on
reunion.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ray,
yeah. So that
Floyd. Yeah.
let's talk about it. We
Yeah.
had a wonderful. I believe we had trauma. We had a wonderful childhood. God has been good to us. Those that are still here with us, we still have opportunity to share. We still, each one of us teach one, each one teach one.
Yes.
So what we've been through, I think if we share our stories, it will help to empower one another. And that's what we need. Like I said, the lens that I looked through, all I saw was your parents, David.
And that's
all I saw. If you just think about it, there was nobody else on 95th Street that had their own business. And look how God has blessed me. I deal with my own stuff now. So I had a lens. So all we have to do is provide hope to our brethren and our sisters, to provide that hope. Let us be that lens. Let us be the lens that the brothers, when they see you, oh, that's David Bates. That he was locked down for 11 and a half years. He made it through that. He made it through the torture. He's a survivor. I can do it. If he can do it, because God is no respecter of persons. If he did it for me, he'll do it for you. And that's the generational wealth that we're looking for. Wealth does not just constitute finances. Wealth is a healthy lineage that we're passing on to our children.
Agreed.
That's saying you can do greater than what I did through my example. That's true wealth. So we'll begin and end it on that. That's the true generational wealth. And stolen from us is when we don't teach.
Great point.
That's it.
All right. So I work today, and you don't have me stuck on this podcast with you.
Okay.
Maybe I can have a little time. All power to people. Appreciate you. Love you.
Yeah. So next, I'm gonna just play as David and I go out. I'm gonna play. It's a poem that I wrote with my book called "God is Transferring the Wealth of the Wicked to the Hands of the Righteous." And it's called The King of Love. So I want you guys to listen to it so you can hear exactly what it is that I'm saying in that poem. The King of Love is just a sign that the Most High dwelling is in your mind. So listen to it. Also, if you're interested in any type of business development, that's what JAS Enterprises does. You can always hit me on Facebook. You can hit me in the back channel, and you can hit me on YouTube. Share this video. We thank you. We love you. And we say peace. Listen up, y'all. King of Love, we're moving on up. I have a message from the King of Love, lessons, degrees, melodies sent from above. The King of Love is sent to teach. Words of wisdom are within your reach. Knowledge is a deep understanding of the wisdom of self without being demanding. The words he speaks, the melody he sings, let you know in the door he is truly a king. Disregard the appearance, seek to reach within, and embrace the King of Love without fear of sin. His life is dramatic, his path full of gold. The King of Love will never grow old. The words make you smile, the touch makes you blush. The seriousness of it all sends your mind in a rush. Sisters, brothers, all families, you don't hear him calling? You must be deaf, because we seem to be falling from the highest heights where we were meant to be. His music soothes and his words relieves. Listen close, pay attention. Let him take you to another dimension. When you feel the touch, please don't rush. Relax, open your mind and learn to trust. Look within to see who you truly are. And let the King of Love be your guiding star. Slow it down, pause to think. All the lies you've been told will only make you sink. Learn to ask, what's the reason? Behind the mask, there's always a season. To tell the truth, the King of Love has a mystical tool. He'll wrap up your mind and take you to school. Try to focus on your task at hand, and then you will overstand. Hate, greed, lust are only a few of your enemies at hand. Learn to identify the enemy, then learn about the King of Love. You'll then realize he was sent from above. The King of Love is a trusted friend. He will show you how to reach within. Once you look in and see the ugly heads, don't be afraid to confront or rise from the dead. Change is growth, and it is needed. To follow the path of the King of Love, the words must be heeded. Listen to the melody of your soul's delights. Don't allow inner turmoil to win your fight. Follow the flow as the change takes place. There's room for all in the King of Love space. Peace and blessings from the University of Love, and most high praises to the one who is above. He sits high and he looks low, and definitely he wants you to grow. This is why the King of Love is just a sign that the most high dwelling is in your mind. So we moving on up. King of Love.